Buzz's Retirement Garage. I got to put these gloves on. 14 degrees here in sunny Cleveland, Ohio. So I'm out in the backyard. Figured I'd do a video about living with our spouses in retirement. You know, well, first I'll shout out to, in the memory of Big Chuck Sidowski, who passed today at 90 years old. Those in Cleveland and some of the surrounding areas know who he is or who he was. Late night movie host along with Houlihan back in the 1970s, and then later with when Houlihan took off to California, later with Little John. So he passed at 90 years old today, and good guy. I just saw him at Goulardi Fest a few years back, and I think it was right before COVID. So that was his last venture out into Goulardi Fest, and he retired from everything and again passed today. So those of you who don't know him, take a look, look him up. Big Chuck Sidowski. Cool guy. Anyway, living with your spouse, your significant other in retirement. How has it been going? Now, in me and Mrs. Buzz's case, it hasn't been too bad. Now, remember, she stayed home to raise the kids. She had a little bit of health issues, and she never returned to work. So I was fortunate enough to be able to come home and, had dinner ready, and she would make my lunch for me every day. But she had the house to herself for years and years and years, right? So now all of a sudden, Mr. Buzz retires about almost 16 months ago. Wow, I can't believe it's been that much time already. So 16 months ago, Mr. Buzz is now waking up every day, and I walk out and she sees me every day because she gets up. The good thing is she gets up early. I stay up late. So in a way, that kind of works out. Now, I know not everybody's in that kind of a situation, but she's one of them 5, 6 a.m., 7 a.m. people. I'm not. So she picks up a couple hours on me. And then again at night, when I'm answering emails or watching YouTube, I get a few hours where I get control of the remote, right? So, and I know in some of your cases, I got a couple emails from people who wanted me to talk about a spousal situation. Because, it's if the women were home and all of a sudden the guy's there. I know one guy I retired with, he retired about a year before me from our former place of employment. He said he was in there, his wife's a photographer and she's retired, but he was in there messing with her on the computer and watching over her shoulder everything she was doing when she was doing some editing, and finally she had to turn around and say, well, you just get out. Go find something to do. So in some cases it can be a learning curve, right? You've got to learn how to adapt. It's something new. In retirement, you learn all kinds of new things. You learn that your time is your own, right? And you also have to learn, if you have a spouse, you have to learn boundaries. You've got to give your spouse, I think anyway, you've got to give your spouse some time, especially if they've been used to not seeing your face until 6 o'clock at night or something like that. They're used to a certain thing, excuse me. And it's going to take a while for them to adapt. And I know a couple guys have just retired and their spouses, women, are still working. So theirs is a little bit opposite, where they were both working. Now he's home. So what are his responsibilities? They should probably grow, right? Now, one thing I like to do, and I don't mind doing, is dusting and vacuuming. I've always done that. That was part of my thing. While she did most of the cooking, Mrs. Buzz does most of the cooking, I like to do the other type of things. Of course, keeping up with the yard and garden and all that, but vacuuming and dusting, that's something I can deal with. I'm not that bad at it, I don't think, anyway. But so we haven't had too many issues. I know politics gets into people's lives, especially today, January 20th. There's spouses that are on either side of the spectrum. We don't have that problem here. we're pretty much middle of the road, so we like this and we like that. Not happy about everything, but not sad about everything either. So for us, that's not an issue, but I know there are spouses that have, you know, they're really getting some serious arguments about it because they are on both sides of the spectrum. And that's too bad, because that's a divide that it's going to be hard to repair maybe. It's going to take years. But we don't do politics on our channel, so, and for you to, when you're about to retire, you have to think, if you have a spouse, think about what's going to help him or her, depending on who retires first, how that's going to work. You know, it's just another thing to add to your checklist of pre-retirement things. How are things going to work? What duties and responsibilities are you going to pick up that maybe your spouse was doing before, because you were both probably equally sharing some types of housework and stuff like that. Well, now that you're retired, you should maybe take up a little bit more responsibility and do a little bit more, so when that spouse comes home, it's a little bit easier on them. Just suggestions, I don't know. You guys tell me, how has it been for you when you retired? Like I said, I got a couple emails. A couple people have been not real happy about the situation. They're making do. But then, like I said, my case, it hasn't been too bad, unless she's not telling me something. But it hasn't been too bad. Let me know your thoughts on it. Anyway, happy January. And this is Buzz's Retirement Garage. We'll see you, hopefully in warmer weather. Take care.